Begin. Now you can begin, sir. Dubey sir, now you can unmute and begin.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back this Thursday evening with our study circle. And as you all know, we are reading one chapter from the book, The Word Within, and then having a dialogue on that. So today we have selected chapter 29 of the book, The Word Within, and the theme is the greatness of relationship is its very insecurity. And I'm going to read out uh, the dialogue Krishnaji had with one of the participants who had gone to him. Uh, I'm sure we all know what this book is all about. This is a dialogue between Krishnaji and one of the participants, and it relates to the period during the Second World War from 1939 to 1945, when Krishnaji was not allowed in US to have any public meeting. So he begins by saying, H said he found relationship most trying and conflicting. It began with a certain joyousness, but soon there crept into it dissension and pain. He asked how he was to get out of this conflict. To be is to be related, and all the relationship is painful. It is the very nature of relationship to cause disturbance. You can mentally formulate a pattern of ideal relationship, but that is only escaping from the factual. Such an intellectual ideal prevents adjustment and the possibility of going beyond conflict. The pattern becomes more important than understanding. Identification prevents right thinking. Relationship is inevitably painful, which is shown in our everyday existence. If in relationship there is no tension, it ceases to be relationship and becomes merely a comfortable, sleepy state, an opiate which most people want and prefer. Conflict is between this craving for comfort and what is factual, between illusion and actuality. If you recognize the illusion, then you can, by putting it aside, give your attention to the understanding of relationship. If you seek security in relationship, then it is an investment in comfort, in illusion, and the greatness of relationship is its very insecurity. If you seek security in relationship, you are hindering its function, which brings its own actions and misfortune. Surely the function of relationship is to reveal the state of one's whole being. Relationship is a process of self-revelation, of self-knowledge. This self-revelation is painful, demanding constant adjustment, pliability of thought emotion. It is a painful struggle with periods of enlightened peace. To uproot habits, prohibitions, philosophies, and doctrines is very disturbing and very strenuous. But the function of relationship is to bring about understanding, and to understand, conflict seems necessary. In complete self knowledge, there is freedom from pain, conflict, and confusion. And relationship is the way forward that freedom. There is no isolation, even for the man who withdraws from this distractions of the world. In exclusiveness, there is ignorance. Everything is related. And in understanding this relationship with its strains and mirth, in that aloneness of understanding, the tensions and the struggles, the pains and joys cleanse the mind and the heart of their self enclosing barriers and so bring about a realization of the bliss of the Supreme. But most of us avoid, put aside the tension in relationship, preferring the ease and comfort of satisfying dependency, an unchallenged security, a safe anchorage. Then the family, the relationship becomes a refuge. It is the refuge of the thoughtless. When insecurity inevitably creeps into that dependency, then that particular relationship is cast aside. and a new one is taken on, hoping for greater security in it. In relationship, there is no security, and dependence only breeds fear. Without understanding the process of security and fear, relationship becomes binding hindrance, a way of ignorance. All existence is a struggle and a pain. There is no way out of it, save in the right thinking, which comes through self knowledge. Through self knowledge, the bliss of the eternal is realized. So, we have had a number of lectures and talks on relationship. We can all take a minute or so and then express our understanding.
Harshad Parekh, sir.
Yes, Harshad bhai, please go ahead.
Yeah, are you able to hear?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. Good evening, everybody. This topic is very, very interesting, and probably this relationship is the main problem in our human existence. And it seems that the greatest tragedy for human being is that they cannot live alone, because to be alone may be very isolating, very frightening. And so we like to relate to people around. And when we try to relate, then there is a duality and conflict. And there are, of course, beautiful moments. And then images are formed. And then it becomes a very routine kind of relationship in which there may be security, like as Krishnaji says, but in that there is not something newness happening. And Krishnaji here says that conflict is necessary to understand ourselves. So what happens that when there is conflict in relationship, uh, three things can happen. One thing is that when there is a conflict and you feel pain, you like to blame the other person and says that the other person is responsible for this pain. And then you get more and more upset, and it becomes a never ending problem to keep on complaining and deteriorating in relationship. The other is that you just ignore the conflict, ignore the person, and then you may feel comfortable, but then that comfort also leads to deterioration. And the other thing is that when uh, there is a conflict and there is a pain, uh, one can look within and and ask what is it that is creating pain, what is behind it. So in that, when we go very deep within, we may see clearly how pain is created, how conflicts are created, and we understand ourselves better. and it may be possible in relationship to respond without getting angry, without pointing faults of others, and listening carefully and learning and not creating problem for oneself. And that is, it seems to me, a very healthy way of living, in listening, looking with clarity. And here Krishnaji said that um, to understand conflict is necessary, but what he says that, and also he says all relationship is painful, and intellectual ideas that there should be not this or that, it doesn't help also. And right thinking comes from self-knowledge. And this self-knowledge is not, there is a complete self-knowledge. Because as we time passes, every moment the self is changing. So the only way we can look is moment by moment looking. So like when anger is arising, looking at anger at that moment, not later on. So this seems to be the right approach to me. And this I question what Krishnaji says, in complete self-knowledge, there is freedom. And I feel that there is no complete self-knowledge. We don't know what happens in future, whether we have some problem, some disease, or some accident, some damage to the brain. So we don't know the complete self-knowledge. We can know only the present and the past. Future, we don't know. Okay, so I have finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Thank you. I think we should go a little deeper into uh, Krishnaji's statement that every relationship has conflict. Conflict is inevitable. We should go a little deeper into it. And as Harshad bhai said, uh, self-knowledge is not the kind of knowledge that we are used to, the cumulative knowledge where we collect, it goes into our memory. This is something which one learns from moment to moment. So, uh, can we discuss of all this? We'll go to Durga ji first and then to Vijay ji. Durga ji,
Hello.
please. Yeah,
Yes,
please go
sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, it's like this whole extract. I think Krishnaji has given the entire structure, the functionality of the relationship, and I think in almost all the 6 paragraphs, there are so many points we can take into consideration. Like if we just go by point, like paragraph wise, he says, all relationships, they begin on a joyous note, but in no sooner, they all end up in dissension and pain. And when one feels that, there is a conflict, there is a pain, one wants to be out of that relationship. That's how the chapter had begun. And then, then he says, and Krishnaji says, to be is to be related. Relationship is very essential also. There is a very fundamental statement we come across here. Like, it's a without a relationship, no life is possible. Related to be, relationship is essential for one to understand oneself. Only in a relationship, one can see all the layers of oneself, where one is, how one reacts, behaves. I think though the word of mirror of relationship is not used here, I think in that mirror it's a perfect way of understanding oneself, in the unfolding of one's nature. reactions and actions. If one is keen to understand oneself, that is a way. I think the emphasis is very much here. And there he says, in any relationship, it is inevitable. The conflict, the tension are inevitable. That is a fact of fact. He says that's a fact. If we can see that as a fact, then maybe we can work from there. There is nothing called an ideal relationship. There is nothing called forming a pattern and living according to that pattern. So this is a very fundamental point, I feel. If we see tension and conflict are inherent part of relationship, and if that is a fundamental fact, then there is no way of escaping from oneself, escaping from relationship. Maybe one can start working from there. And he also says in the third paragraph, he says if there is no tension and it becomes a comfortable sleepy state, an opiate which most people want and prefer. And he says if there is no tension and there is no conflict, that means there is no growth at all there. Maybe one has formed into a pattern, and afterwards the pattern itself becomes, you can say a slave to that very pattern. There is no growth, there is no understanding, there are no revelations. So there are so many fundamental factors he is disclosing here. Relationship is very essential, and it is inevitable to understand that conflict and tension are part of relationship. And in going through all that, going through the joys, it has its side of joys in mirth, tensions and conflicts. One can the cleansing of the mind happens, and one can go towards the freedom. So that way the whole extract is full of weighty points and pointers, and there are so many points also. I can come back to them. That's all I want to say for the time being. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, shall I say something now? Hello?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Hello?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Right. I was just wondering whether when we say there is, it sounded like in relationship conflict is inevitable or it's required in order to, get to know oneself. Of course, it happens inevitably. That is perhaps, or does it happen because of relationship, or it happens due to lack of relationship? And how does one actually relate? Because there's also a feeling when one is relating, is there a conflict really? Or is it one is bringing in many other components into relationship of prejudices, views, images? All those things are coming in, all brought in a way, maybe unconsciously. And therefore, there is conflict not only between oneself and the other, actually it is perhaps within oneself. That if I have, between what I think and what the other thinks, and these two ideas and images within oneself seem to have a, grapple with each other. So that's, it's interesting when observation is not the normal tool that we are in daily living very much in tune with, or, it's more thinking about things. So it's not a direct relationship. It's not directly observing, listening, as Harshad was saying, listening, and being available in a way, that when you are relating to the other, is one available there? Or is one imposing certain things. Hello? Yeah. So that's, it's very interesting in First and Last Freedom, when Krishna is talking about relationship, life is a relationship, to be, like here also, to be is to be related. And the whole chapter is about relationship, that how one is related and what happens in that relationship. And then suddenly there's a jump. He said, sir, when there is love, there is no relationship. I don't know whether it has come up in the previous discussions, that, or in other words, we hear, when you are alone, you are related. When you are alone, you are related. No? So alone, perhaps in that sense of, non-divisiveness, nothing is brought in as something to separate one from the other. So once that is not brought in, there is a sense of aloneness, and then one is genuinely related. And so I was wondering whether in that sense, that jump was very interesting. When the whole chapter is about relationship and to be is to be related, and suddenly where there is love, there is no relationship. So in relationship, inevitably there is a duality and hence conflict. So this is, and when it's in actual relating, like human being to human being, relating human being to human being is, one can see, one can test it out, that how things get very simple. But the moment mind is operating with labels, that one has put oneself some label for oneself, created a label for oneself and for the other. Somewhere the communication, which is part of relationship, collapses. And there's a debate, there's a argument, there's a opinion against opinion. Whereas if there's an exploration, if there's relating in the ing, like thinking, when it says right thinking, it's ing. It's very, I think it's very crucial. I mean, which immediately suggests you something, present. It's happening now, not going back to the past catalog and referring to library or projecting the future. It's you are active now. Just it's as it's equivalent of watching, listening, and reflecting, thinking together. It's probably in that also is. I'm sorry, a few other things are brought in here. I can't help it. So because they all seem to be so related, that once there is that kind of actual relating happening, communicating happening, or listening happening, then what happens then? What is the quality of the mind then? And is that what right thinking is referring to? So I'll pause here. Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. There is a chapter in Commentary on Living, first series. The title is Love in Relationship. And it is a marvelous chapter where Krishnaji goes very, very deep into this love, which about the mind and the heart and the conflict arising between the mind, which is very cunning, and the heart, which is very loving. And goes very deep into it, but there is one sentence in that chapter which captivated me for many years when I was young, and that sentence was, "Love in relationship is a purifying process as it reveals the ways of the self. Without this revelation, relationship has very little significance." So, yes, we can have relationship, but are we really learning and looking within and understanding and becoming free of many, many problems which we create for ourselves? So, um, Chhabra said about true relationship is in aloneness, because in that there is no conflict, and maybe the mind and the heart are in very good state in aloneness, and you feel related with everything, nature and people, your own thinking, feeling. But then when you come into contact with people, real people, and when they say something which is hurting you, then this self will come. And at that time, anger may arise and many problems come, which are not there when we are alone and we have a wonderful state. So the real testing of understanding is in real physical relationship, because relationship exists at physical level, mental level, and there is a level beyond physical and mental, which is like to have no image and to have a complete silence, freedom to look, listen. But that is very rare. But we can understand ourselves when any problem of fear, anger, jealousy, loneliness, when it comes in physical relationship with human beings, then this awareness is required to look. And without that, we get make everything very complicated. So our problem, real problem, is that we do not have ongoing, effortless awareness of what is happening within us and what is happening outside. Though we may have wonderful time in aloneness and nature and everything is wonderful, but real testing of understanding is in physical relationship. When somebody says something which we don't like, what is our reaction? What is our response? Okay, I have finished now. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshabhai. Thank you. I think Vijayji wants to say something and then Anandji.
Yeah. Yeah, just one. I wonder whether aloneness has anything to do with whether you are really alone physically or with others, or is it a state of mind? It's an approach, or whether it is so or not. One can examine. No. So at least I didn't mean that it is physically you are when you are away from the hustle and bustle, as often I am here in this place. But still, you everywhere you relate. There are people around. There will always be some interactions. There will be interactions, also conversations, discussions on phone. Every day you communicate with your family, with friends. So it's I don't think it's a question of being physically alone. That also may help, or also may be required sometimes. Like you go to, go in for a retreat, take time off and away from the regular routine, where probably you don't get so much leisure and time for yourself. There are all the things, thrown on you, and you have to handle them. That's a different matter. But as such, the way I understand when Krishna talks about aloneness, it has not really to do with being physically isolated alone, or or being with people and still having that sense of at least no emphatic sense of that deep sense of separation we generally live with and grow up with. That's one. Another is, I think the difficulty is in general daily living. When we listen, when we observe, when we converse, there's one perhaps is so used to taking a position and then look at the other, then listen to the other. And whereas we miss out on the whole field. The whole field is, which includes everything, which includes listening to whatever is coming out from the other minds, and also listening to what is happening here, the own mind saying something, or reacting, or able to listen or not able to listen, and whatever murmurings go, or is able to, has some responses, reactions, or something popping up. So listening kind of being, is it possible to be intimate with the whole field? I think that's the difficulty. Whenever that can happen, I'm sure it happens, maybe intermittently, but that has a different quality. Then it's not one listening to the other, but there's some kind of listening happening, which is taking in what the others are saying, also taking in what own mind is saying. Somebody says something and the mind is objecting to it. So is it that, oh, I object to it, or I see my mind is objecting to it, I look at it, I don't know why it is objecting to it. So then it reflects, it looks at it and shares. So in that, is it that we lose sight of the this field, which is so lively, so palpable, was active, and it's not just, and has many players, and you are included in that. So, and of course, also the outer, the nature is also part of it. So, so many things can happen there. There may be nature, there may be other people, and there may be conversation between two, and this whole, and there's a certain context. So, so it's often intriguing to see if one, whether this whole field is touched, be, and whether one can be intimate with this, or there is that the whole field is playful there, and one is part of it, participating in it, and also others are participating in it, and this whole thing is kind of seen. This, how far the language can go. But it's interesting. It's very, because then, it doesn't give you a sense of one brain thinking about something, but it's kind of thinking happening, listening happening. It's a very, and one wonders what is happening in a way, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen, And why should it continue? If it breaks, it breaks. So why should there be out insistence on continuing such a thing? Then you have put it in a, you have evaluated it and made something out of it or created a claim of it, and it becomes a very narrow, small thing. So it's in the flow of things that the charm of living seems to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay ji. Thank you. I think before I invite Anand ji and Vidisha ji to say something, I just want to mention that Harshad bhai mentioned about, relationship need not necessarily be a physical relationship. It could be, for example, our relationship with our ideas. I have certain views about everything in life. It could be religious views or political views or social views. And even if I read something in a newspaper or in a book, it creates a conflict within my mind. And I don't need to be with that person who has written that article. It creates that. So I think, am I holding my view about anything, my relationship with anything so tightly that I'm not able to listen at all? That is a very important aspect of relationship. That can I let go of my attachment to that relationship? How deeply I'm attached to all that? That is something which needs to be looked into. This is what I wanted to say. Now, Anandji and then Vidishaji, please unmute yourself. Unmute.
Yes, sir. So, in fact, it's the same thing what previously the speaker, said something. Relationship is love, sir, and love is relationship. We misunderstand the words which K has been using. The moment I say love, I think it's pleasure all the time. There's no suffering, there's no pain, there's no conflict, which is not true. The point is there's understanding. When there is conflict, pain, my conditioning is to always run away from it. I never remain with it. So I don't know what it is. Even today, when there's some pain, I choose to have some entertainment or go for pleasurable activities. I never ever remain with it. And most of the time, whatever the words I listen to, there's immediate interpretation of those words. And I really don't listen to those words. I don't remain with those words. Like, for example, when K says, the ending of sorrow is the beginning of wisdom, immediately I say, I should end sorrow. That is not the case. That is not true. You cannot end sorrow. Similarly, when we hear words from K, we immediately we keep interpreting these words. That is where the real challenge begins. So again, one has to understand life is relationship. When I say life, it's not your life, my life. Life per se. There is pain, there is suffering in life. Without that, life does not exist. And again, he says, to be related, a relationship means to be related. Otherwise, you have no existence. Relationship means that. So it is quite challenging. I never remain with what are the problems which arise in my life. I'm seeking security. I seek security in relationship. Then it becomes an investment. It's my comfort, it's my pleasure. And I really don't understand what relationship is. And as Kay says, the greatness of relationship lies in its very insecurity. And all the time, I do not want to remain with the insecurity. Can I observe? That is the question, sir. I may go for a walk. I see lovely things out there. These are all my pleasurable activities. There is pain, there is suffering, there is death there, but I don't see it. I only think about how beautiful the sunset is, how beautiful the sunrise is, how beautiful the tree looks, how beautiful the flower is. I don't see a dead tree. I don't see there's something being killed or there's something which is dead, which is ugly, which is dirty. I don't want to see that. So there is no understanding of or I would say that, I'm moving away from it. I don't want to remain with unpleasant things. So there is absolutely, there will not be any understanding of relationship. In fact, there's no such thing as right relationship, sir. We want to have perfect relationship. That doesn't exist. But I am seeking for perfect relationship all the time. How do I understand? There's only the understanding of relationship. Again,
You know what, sir?
Yeah.
You know what, sir?
Yeah. So even when I say there is only the understanding of relationship, for me, understanding means comfort, pleasure, and all that. That is what understanding. I mean, that's how I look at it. Without pain, life does not exist, sir. Can I look at that? Is the question. Over, sir.
Uh, I think Anandji has raised some very valid points. I only want to say that Christy never said that you believe whatever he's saying. He said that you listen to me, understand, and test it out in your life. And it's very simple to see that, in case of you may be in a cave in Himalayas, but wherever you are related to the surroundings, to whatever things are around you. And how do you know that? Because when you see something and do something, there is a response from your consciousness. That is how I know that I'm related to something. So this is not very difficult to understand. And bringing complexities in this simple process, that I see somebody, I like him, I don't like him, there is a response from my consciousness. So I know that life is a relationship. It's not difficult to understand. This is very, very simple. Yes, Vidishaji, please go ahead.
Okay, I have few things to share with. I don't know I will be able to be very clear or not. But since actually in the morning I received the message and the piece which is being discussed by piece by Krishnamurti ji. He actually Vijayji sent me all these things, and I read it out, and then and still since then I was just thinking that it is so true that yes, in a way it is very true that whenever there is a relationship in my life, may it consider as my personal, I will be I will be comfortable if I deliver it as my personal experience. Whenever and whatever whichever the relationships are there, it is maybe it is a marital relationship, or my colleague to colleague relationship, or mother daughter relationship, or parental relationship, or other than any kind of relationship I can imagine and I am having in my life, there are chances that they do not only provide me happiness or pleasures or difficulties, as well as they are really giving me the the chances. They can they can be damaged, and they will create that thing that whatever the piece was based on, that a relationship cannot be only comfortable. Always you have to think on that, that it may become, at any point it may become uncomfortable, right? I am agreeing with that. So one has to, one, if suppose one thinks that okay, I don't want any sort of human relationship in which I have the chance that I have to work on it, whether it remains comfortable or not. But in other there is a scope for me to relate myself safe in the Himalayas or in wherever in my surrounding nature. There is no risk. I don't find any kind of risk to relate myself with my surrounding. That is the nature. Or my pet, or a pet which I am having in my house. So I think that it is the most comfortable and most for sure taken for granted. You may say it that in like in that way also. It is a taken for granted relation, that I know that no, it is not going to damage. It is not going to be uncomfortable unless I spoil it, unless I am not able to take it in its own way. Now, I think in human relationship, the thing is the art of making the relation successful, or keeping the relationship keeping the relationship nice and viable, and at the same time comfortable, is how much space do we think to give in between the two, in the relationship. I think that is the the key point. If we miss the uh, if we miss the proportion, sense of proportion of keeping the space, allowing the space, which at some point I can tell it that there is a point when being in a relationship also one can feel alone, one can feel alone, but it is not similar to loneliness. I uh, I want to differentiate the term alone with loneliness.
Yes.
Alone is a statement, and I think loneliness can be a complaint, or can be a a complaint, or an ask for. If I utter that I am feeling lonely, that means I want someone, I want any kind of company. But if I state that I am alone right now, so I'm okay with that. It's a symbol. It clears that I am okay with my state. So in my opinion, loneliness and alone is have a different vibes actually. Uh, I think I have stated whatever I wanted to say, and at this point I pause. Maybe in some point I can comment once again.
Thank you, Vidishaji. I think you have taken it very well. I only want to caution that in maintaining a relationship, are we saying that there should be a give and take because that's the way we live our life? I'm not objecting to give and take because there is a give and take in all relationships. But okay, I listen to you sometimes so that you will also listen to me. That is not the way to relate. As Krishna, he says, can you relate to anything without any self-centered activity? Can there be no self at all? That's the kind of relationship he talks about. Because I'm not expecting anything in return from what I'm seeing or giving it to you. That is an important part. And I think you have rightly said, in a state of loneliness, there is more of self-pity than being alone. Because you feel that I'm not being looked after, I was overlooked for my promotion, and things of that kind. That makes us lonely. That brings the loneliness in us. I think I'll go to Dinesh ji. He has a question, and Durga ji. After that, Durga ji. Dinesh ji, please go ahead.
Sir, I don't have any question. I also wanted to say the same thing. In my views, this relationship is give and take basically. And why it is give and take? Because the I is limited, self is limited, and self wants something to fulfill or complete itself. So that's why one goes into the relationship. This relationship can be of any kind. Because I want fulfillment, that's why it goes to goes in relationship. Now, in my views, why Krishna ji is using the word pain? I think he's stretching us to a limit, and that's why we are taking it as a pain. But otherwise, you see, in 95% or more, most of the relationship, most of the relationships are fulfilling. It may not be completely satisfying you or completely satisfying I, but most of the time it is fulfilling. In between pleasure and pain, there are number of shades, and normally one gets satisfied to some extent. Yes, there are some relationship in which there is a pain, but why it occurs? Because there is in give and take. If you are always giving in the delivering mode, then there is no pain. But when you are always in the taking mode, or you are at the receiving end, and you become possessive of that, you become identified with it, and or you think that this is essential or necessary, or without that you can't live. Such kind of situations, only there is a pain. So one has to understand in relationship, basically one has to free its understand the self. Self is revealed, what as he said rightly. In that revelation, ultimately there will be freedom from self. And when there will be a freedom from self, then only what he says, there is aloneness and all that may take place. So this we have to understand. There is a self always tries to make a balanced relationship and tries to maintain a balance between give and take. And he avoids to become this corner. If the self is cornered, then only there is a pain. So I do not know why he is only stressing on the pain part. But there is always in relationship, there is most of the time there is a satisfying thing and freedom. Yes, one should be sensitive in relationship, but one should not be sentimental in relationship. He should not be possessive about that relationship. If we, the self understand this, then I think the path of freedom slowly may reveal to the self. Why I am using the word slowly? Actually, Krishnamurti says it is instantaneous. But for us, a common man, I think this maturity of self comes gradually. In my case, it is happening gradually. It's a gradual process. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. I think it's important to understand that Krishna always wanted us to do impossible things. So I think the challenge is that can we have a relationship where there is no give and take? That is the challenge he poses to us. And I think it will go totally against the teachings of Krishnamurti when we bring time, because he says there is no time involved in that kind of change. There may be preparation, as you say, maturity comes, but I think if age brings maturity, then all the older people will be the learned people, but that is not the truth in reality, right? Okay, so we'll go to Durgaji and then Pradeep ji. Durgaji, please.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I just want to build on, what are my previous two speakers have spoken, sir, like Bidisha ji and Waghmare. I think, like if we look at our own lives, I think it's some point we need to, when we see ourselves and our own lives, it's better how we relate to all these things. What are our take on this? I think it's very important. If we don't bring in that dimension, it's just going to become an intellectual discussion. So I'm glad that they both have brought their own. I think previous speakers also have brought that. So here there is one more point Krishnaji has said. It's about the person who has gone to Krishnaji had conflict with relationship, and Krishnaji was addressing that particular person. So he says in a relationship, constant adjustment and pliability of thought and emotion. Those are very important factors. Why relationships? We are talking about maybe husband-wife relationship between human beings. Why relationship? The conflict. There is no cessation of conflict because both the persons want to have their own way. When when the self-centered activities become predominant, I think that is the root cause of failing of a relationship. I think maybe this particular passage, Krishnaji is addressing more of those factors, so really, and people when they are not successful in one relationship, they immediately go for divorce and they want to start another relationship with some other human beings. So the relationship is important because it provides us a mirror. Provided if you are interested to read about yourself, understand yourself, why this conflict has arisen in the first place. Because am I giving the space to the other person, or am I being very self-centered, selfish? Is it all the time I want to have my way? Is it because of that? If one person has that kind of an insight and they start looking at oneself, maybe things start falling in their place. Maybe Krishnaji is addressing everybody to look into those areas where relationship has, of course, and as previous speaker has said, I feel it is a give and take. It is a reciprocation. You just can't keep taking from either from nature. If you keep on taking things from nature, one day nature is going to punish us, destroy, and we are going to destroy nature, and nature is going to destroy us. It is a give and take reciprocation. So when that is, sorry for that. So I feel these are the aspects one needs to look into them. That adjustment and pliability of thought and emotion. And all these things, and in understanding all these things, in getting these things disclosed and revealed to oneself, maybe one starts moving towards, the self-knowledge, he says, and right thinking, all these areas start, maybe dawning in one's arena of consciousness. That's all I want to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Durgaji. Anandji and then Pradeep. Anandji, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I mean, when we say life, I mean, relationship is to give and take. That's my conditioning, sir. I mean, that is how I look at it. That's been my conditioning, give and take. Life is not that. I mean, I don't say I give or I say I take it. I mean, in relationship, there's no give and take. There's an understanding, and understanding is dangerous in relationship also, sir. I mean, see, understanding, we think, it brings about pleasure and what you call happiness and things like that. It's not the case. There is danger in all relationships, and one has to look at it. And also, when I say it is very simple, again, the word simple has been misinterpreted or we don't understand, sir. Simple is not easy, sir. Simple is definitely not easy. Simple, to lead a simple life, it's one of the most challenging things for any one of us to do. So, I mean, again, when we talk about lonely and alone, sir, I mean, I don't know what it is to be alone, to be one with everything. When we talk about relationship, we talk about only relationship of me and my wife or my parents or my friends. I don't talk about, it is just a tiny part in life. You see how my life is centered around only this part of life. I don't really know what life is. I keep talking about myself, my family, my marriage, and things like that. Can I look at it as a question, sir? Over, sir. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Anandji. Pradeep ji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dubeyji, for giving me this.
Your voice is breaking, sir. Your voice is breaking.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Unmute. Unmute yourself. Unmute. Pradeep ji, unmute.
Yeah. You see, in relationship, we derive our greatest joys and
I think we have lost Pradeep ji. Yes. Unmute, sir. You are muted again. Yeah.
yeah. So can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm saying that relationships we derive our greatest joys as well as suffering from relationships, and life is extremely intelligent process, and it gives joy to those people who work on themselves. They are able to derive a lot of joy in relationships, and people who are defensive, self-centered, egoistic, and not working on their own issues, not taking responsibility, get extremely miserable in relationship. So life has given this relationship, like what Krishna ji calls mirror of relationship, where you can see yourself. So I see relationship as extremely important to learn and grow yourselves, and it is the reward of it is extremely wonderful relationships, intimacy, love, and happiness. And the opposite of it is equally true. If we don't work on ourselves, don't take responsibility, it punishes, life punishes us in terms of miserable relationships. That's one point. Second point is I want to say is that I'm very, my personal experience want to share is that I feel very free when I have no agenda and nothing to take from the person I am relating to. When this has been said by one Mr. Dinesh earlier also, that so, and the problem starts when I have agenda, when I have to take something, when I have to exploit, when I have to use other person. That is where all the problem and misery starts. That's another point. So I get very free when I say, okay, I have nothing to take from you. I have only something to share, which I can give, if at all. I have no very little expectation. That is the relationship where I feel very free. So so these 2 points I just wanted to say, and there are many more things. If you want, I can just add one. I don't want to take much time. In the groups, the relationship, there are conflicts, and those conflicts, if resolved properly, lead to a better integration of groups. So
We have lost you, Pradeep ji, again. We have lost you.
then the relationship becomes deeper and more integrated. So whatever happens in life is a very intelligent process, and relationship is especially very important source of personal growth and learning. And therefore, we have to take responsibility and we go with the learning mind even in relationships. So it's a source of great joy or great misery. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. Thank you. We'll go to Masoona. Please go ahead and say then Vijay ji and then Dinesh ji. Masoona, please.
So what I have been observing is that all the discussion is going on about the physical relationships or rather worldly relationships that we have got. But what I understand is Krishnaji wants also about the psychological relationship. In psychological relationship, there is no question of past or our relationship depending upon our memory, our past experiences with any of the object, whether living or non-living. So if we want to actually find the fact of relationship, no memory should come into working. That means whether we are making a relationship with any person, we might be having some images about him. So any images that will impress and that will decide upon the character of that person should not be taken into account. Only the true fact, that is, I am seeing him for the first time. I have not seen him. So I am looking at him.
Your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking.
So that is the relationship, and not any relationship which we are all physical things, but they can
I think we have lost him again. Okay, Shakti ji, would you like to say something? Then we'll go to Dinesh ji and Vijay ji. Shakti ji.
My voice is audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, in this chapter, one thing. Hello.
Yes. Yes.
One thing which was very telling, it was telling a lot, that is, the greatness of relationship is its very insecurity. If you seek security in relationship, you are hindering its function. So this seeking security in relationship is making an image of that relationship. This is the message which I get here. And he is telling that relationship is a process of self-revelation, of self-knowledge. And this self-revelation is painful, demanding constant adjustment, pliability of thought, emotion. It is a painful struggle with periods of unenlightened peace. To uproot habits, prohibitions, philosophies and doctrines is very disturbing and very strenuous. So another thing which I am receiving from this chapter is that if I don't like disturbance in a relationship, then I am missing. I'm missing something, because in relationship, either it is with other or with oneself or with one's own ideas. If I cover the disturbance, I'm not able to see the import of that disturbance clearly. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shakti. Thank you. Vijayji, please.
Yeah. See, this is revelation part is, I think, crucial. Dinesh was, if I understood him correctly, was saying why is emphasizing pain, that there's pain in relationship, if I understood him correctly. Is it that invariably a relationship brings out revelation? We resist. We are not able to welcome whatever is coming in whatever form. Acknowledge, look at it. Is that the difficulty? Is that the self coming in the way, or self-image coming in the way, not allowing revelation to, and be available to revelation. Basically, we are unable to be simply being available to revelation, whatever is coming. So it's, self is an issue. Self-centeredness is an issue. Probably the crux of the whole thing. The only thing is, we are used to decide, solving problems in a very positive way through thinking and all, and this doesn't work in psychological domain. So the only thing that is left to us is to observe and allow things to reveal themselves. I mean, that's a fact of life. You may break your head against it, but nothing else will work. Nothing else seems to work. So what is so one can ask, what is the difficulty? I mean, this is what is. If these are facts, so you can break your head against facts. They're there. And whatever is revealing itself is basically what is factual. Rest is my own imagination, which I would love to cling to. And whatever I cling to is obviously is part of illusion. I mean, that's also another fact. So I think it's interesting to look at it. I mean, why does the mind resist to whatever is revealing itself instead of welcoming, acknowledging it? That's it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijayji. Thank you. Dineshji, please go ahead. Then Harshad Bhai and then
Sir,
Bidisha ji.
if we go really deep, then we will find that there is a continuous exchange of energies going on. There is a continuous give and take going on. There is a transfer of energy taking place all the time. It is only the pain when I interfere in it. Now, what is as he has advised or he has pointed out, what are your patterns basically? If you move with the fixed patterns, then you invariably involve yourself in the pain, or you indulge yourself in the pain. Now, only the intelligence has to come to help the self in interpersonal relationships to become infinitely pliable. And that's what he is putting a challenge to us. Can the I be so infinitely pliable in relationship without interfering in the movement of the energies or give and take? Can it remain intelligent to tackle the situation? That's what I think.
Thank you, Dineshji. Harshad Bhai, please.
In this article, Krishna ji uses the word bliss of the supreme. It means probably Krishna ji is saying that when there is a real understanding of ourselves in relationship, then it is possible to be really happy when there is a ongoing understanding of oneself. But this is a very, very rare. I remember a doctor, he was a professor, and his wife, they had attended a retreat in Vasant Vihar. And after the retreat, they both came to me and they wanted to discuss their problem. And when the husband was speaking, wife was not listening. And then suddenly she started speaking and she was very emotional. And the problem between them, to me, it seemed very simple that after drinking coffee, the husband would leave the cup on the table instead of taking it to the sink and wash it. And this simple thing, then they get into arguments, and that's what happens when people are highly educated, very, very sophisticated. Then simple things, simple problems becomes very, very complicated. And another thing which I like to ask myself and also to everyone, whether Krishnaji himself went through very conflicting relationship with somebody and then learned through this relationship and came out of it with a bliss of supreme, or what he says is something which is not connected with his life.
এই ঠুংরি
Because when we
এই ঠুংরি একটু বন্ধ করে দে তো একবার টিভিটা।
when we read the biography of Krishnaji, it seems that Krishnaji had a very difficult relationship with Raja Gopal and Rosalind. And maybe it seems to me that he was learning through this relationship. And so it is not something which he had not experienced. And there were conflicts
আচ্ছা,
in
না,
many
তাতেও
other
আসেনি কিছু।
relationships. Okay, I have finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Thank you.
Hmm.
Vidisha ji, please go ahead. Vidisha ji, please go ahead.
চালিয়ে নে আমার মনে হয় সেটার সঙ্গে সম্পর্ক নেই।
We can hear you. We can hear you. Vidisha ji. I think there's some problem. Vidisha ji, can you hear us? Obviously, she can't. So Dinesh ji wants to say something again. Okay, Dinesh ji, say something.
Say something, yes. Actually, sir, the real challenge is I should not get trapped in any of the emergence of feeling or emotion in relationship. How the real challenge, how it can remain free despite of any emergence of joy or pleasure or pain or any this thing, any other feeling or emotion. That's the real challenge. Here he has pointed out the two very interesting points, the bliss of eternal and bliss of supreme. So that I think we should really explore what he means by that, and that we should go into deep and try to explore that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vidisha ji, can you say something now? We can see you. Are you able to hear me? No, I don't think she is. I don't know how to reach her. Vijay ji, you have her phone number or something, you can remind her, because we can see her.
Sir, she cannot see on her screen, sir.
Yeah, right. That's the problem.
She is solving problem of relationship. The help of
relationship with technology.
yeah, with the help of technology.
Okay, I think obviously she can't.
Yeah.
She can't. She
Yes.
says she can't hear anything.
Yes.
I think there's something wrong with that audio or video. Vijayji wants to say something. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was also not able to unmute, so I couldn't respond also.
Shall I speak?
Yes,
Yeah,
please
now
go
she's
ahead.
ready.
Please go
Are
ahead.
you back,
Uh,
Bidisha ji?
okay.
Bidisha ji is back now?
Yes.
Do you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can hear you. We can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
No. My mic is unmuted now.
Good.
We can
Good,
hear
yeah.
you.
You can go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
just message
Please
me,
go ahead.
send me a text whether
Go
I am
ahead.
audible or not.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. So then, yes, here I see someone has a comment. Let me just refer to the comment. Someone has told that if there is love, there is relationship. I just want to put a note. Maybe there is a relationship and there is not love. And maybe this is also possible, I think, and I believe that there is no such relationship, but there is a love. This is my note to Prakash Maheshwari ji. And the other thing, I would like to, if you allow me a little time, I would like to put an analogy, as I have a chemistry background. Just think. I will explain that in the periodic table, if you are aware of the periodic table, and there are so many, so many
Elements.
and so many
Elements.
what you say, calcium, iron, magnesium, everything, and there are some elements. So many elements. I mean, 108 elements, of which 8 to 10 elements are referred as 8 group elements. Those are actually ideal elements. You can ideal gases actually, and they are referred as ideal gases. And the thing is that they don't react. They usually don't react with any of the elements. Now, you can prefer in your life that you won't have any problem, you won't have any hazard, you won't have any complication if you won't go through a relationship, or if you choose to not to be in any kind of relationship. That is an option, that you will stay like a real gas. And there is, you are losing the chance to create some new complex some new ideas, some new, I mean, some new scopes. That is, if you are not able to create any kind of compound just like the real gases, other than the most of the other elements, rest of the elements in the periodic table. So you are losing the chance to create a new compound also. At the same time, you are not having any risk of hazard. That is true in one point. But if you fail, or if you just think that no, if I don't want to go through any relationships, because there may be hazards, there may be complications, and there will be complications, because the relationships are meant to be original if there are complications. If there are no other, as I read in the passage, that it is very common and it is very uh, noble elements. Right. Someone has corrected me. Thank you so much. Noble elements, noble gases, actually. So I hope you would, at least you would relate the metaphor. Okay, that's what I was telling to explain. I was trying to explain that there is, I felt a metaphoric resemblance in between these two things, and it charged me that no, I am not also, I was skeptic that whether the relationships are very dangerous or not. So I think that in keeping an account that relationships are very viable to bring complications as well as disturbances and many more things, but still they are the chances to manifest myself, my own. That's all I want to share with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sushil ji wants to say something. Yes, Sushil ji, go ahead.
If you are looking for security in relationship, you are losing vulnerability of the relationship. Vulnerability is the beauty.
Right. Absolutely.
So you have to see what you want. If you wanted a living relationship, you should try to be vulnerable. You should give freedom to the person to whom you are related, or the idea or the thing you are related, or you yourself has to see it, whether it is a vulnerable or not. Vulnerability is more important than anything else, what I feel in person. And now, Vijay Chhabra, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, it's hello. What happened?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me, no? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, analogies are interesting, but I wonder whether they really drive the point home. I'm just, I mean, they're interesting, but life is much too complex, much, too diverse, and you can't choose. They're probably, it's maybe properties that are static. These properties are there. Certain elements have certain properties, but human being is not fixed that way. And so even if you, it's not just a question of a relationship between two people, or a romantic relationship, or a certain kind of relationship, or husband-wife relationship. There are, as Dubeyji was saying, relationship with nature, with ideas, with opinions, how we defend our opinions, how we hold on to certain positions, all that in totality, relating to everything within. Also, there's a whole range of things. So, and you can't really, can you choose to avoid a certain kind of relationship and just go in further? Maybe you can for a while, but life is interesting. Whatever you are, struggling to avoid, that very thing, maybe, life will bring you to face it or confront you with it. It will creep in some find other way, and it will creep in at a time when you least expect, and in the way you least expect. Life is, just remember that, that's what the poem Madhushala tells, Raha pakad tu ek chala ja, pa jayega Madhushala, because life is all over, everywhere, in different forms. It will not leave you. So you can't run away from it. You may run away from a particular kind of relationship, but there'll be, it will come in other forms. Like run away from problems, but problems will find different forms. You can run away from one form of problem, but you can't run away from problems. You have to only confront them, face them, penetrate them, and maybe, then it may have a different flavor. But otherwise, this running away or getting rid of anything by our own acts, by our own cleverness, doesn't seem to take you very far. I mean, that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijayji. I think
Sir,
we can close it on this
time has come.
note.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
we can close it on this note.
yeah.
And just to let you know that next Sunday, which is 24th, we have Dr. Sailesh Shirali from Sayadri School. He'll be talking to us. So hopefully we'll see you again at 11 a.m. And he's going to talk on violence. Why can't we live in peace on earth? So you're all welcome to join. Thank you. Thank you all.
And next
Good night.
Thursday, next Thursday, sir, next Thursday we will have Khalap, sir, Kiran Khalap. Next Thursday, Kiran Khalap will be there to address us. That's a question answer session. He will be saying something on some topic and we can go for question and answer. There is nothing reasonable. There is a reason, R-E-G-I-O-N, beyond reasoning, which is more important than what we think reasoning will.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jain Saab.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We close now. Good night to everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Good night, sir.
Thanks all for
Please,
participating.
please close. Please close.